This is Meet the Candidates. And here at the St. Paul Community Baptist Church, while we don't endorse, we do inform. And today we're talking about the 42nd Councilmatic District. Today we have a candidate who's running for that seat, Nikki Lucas. Nikki, tell us a little bit about the 42nd District and why you're running.
Sure. So first of all, namaste. And the 42nd Council District is comprised of East New York, East Flatbush, Brownsville, and Canarsie. Most of the district, however, is in East New York, and that includes Starrett City and Remsen Village.
I think everybody has the same question. Who are you? Tell us a little bit about your background and why you are running for this seat.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'm a mom and a daughter. I'm thankful that both my parents are alive, seniors in this community. And I have been in this community since 1978, living in Starrett City. I am the founder of an organization which is the People First Democratic Club, which we developed because we saw a number of different issues that was happening in the community. And the Democratic clubs that were already existing was only getting together when it was time to elect a candidate. In the meantime, a lot of the issues were happening. So we got together, we surveyed the community, and we started to make sure that we served as a voice and a liaison to advocate for issues within the community. I also am the outreach director for Senior Outreach Services of New York City, and I am a co-founder of an organization called East New York Brooklyn Collaborative, which focuses on identifying resources for mental health and education.
Nikki, we're doing this segment because I want the members of our community and our church, when they go to their polling site, to be informed about their choices. Can you tell us today some of the challenges that you see relative to this district? Now, I've got some opinions and I'll share them, but how do you see the challenges of the 42nd Council District and what makes this district unique?
Great question, and that's also connected to why I'm running. We are facing a number of disparities that we've been facing over the 2 decades, over 20 years. We have had the same elected swapping seats back and forth, and we all had the same level of hope and desire that we would come out of the situations that we were in prior to the pandemic. Fortunately and unfortunately, the pandemic magnified a number of issues that were already existing, and it just simply grew throughout the pandemic. That included us being #1 in homelessness. And why that's important, we want to really paint the face of what homelessness looks like here. It's not just shelters, it's not just people in the streets. These are actually working families that we know, our children, our students, that are homeless. What does that mean when you have housing insecurities, that we're going into work, we're going into school with existing trauma that's also untreated? So now we don't even have enough resources to address those issues, where we're lacking in guidance counselors and social workers within our schools. Then we're lacking in our schools when it comes to additional resources. We still have young people out there that don't have internet service. Right. And the expectation when they go into these schools is that these teachers who are under-resourced are supposed to deal with all these issues. And it's just not a fair situation. We're also dealing with the industrial area that has been left untreated or undealt with. We could have been underdeveloped. We could have been bringing in jobs. We could have been creating co-working spaces and incubators for people to have an opportunity to grow businesses. And that's something that just wasn't done in over 20 years. And what's been happening to us is that we've been fighting from behind. So when we saw things like Amazon come in, not a unionized, not paying sustainable wages or livable wages, then it's let's go complain. We can't complain after something's done. I don't want to complain after somebody's been evicted. I don't want to complain after somebody's lost their jobs. I don't want to complain about that after the fact. I want to be proactive in dealing with the issues that we have in this community, and that's why I'm running.
So you talked about homelessness. Let's pivot right there because homelessness, some of the contributing factors, I think, have to be talked about, and you've begun to do that here in this segment. Let's talk a little bit about public housing because homelessness, public housing, they're connected. There's ways in which they're connected. We've got a long list of families that are awaiting apartments in public housing. We've got seniors who need better living conditions, who have 3-bedroom apartments. They've got oversized apartments, but they don't want to leave the community that they've raised their children and they've lived their lives. And so let's talk a little bit about public housing and perhaps your position today. This district has a plethora of public housing and also public housing land. Talk to us about your positions relative to public housing. How do we repair it from top to bottom? I sent you a vision statement from our organization. We have a plan. We think that public housing should be repaired, not privatized, but repaired from top to bottom. We need oversight. We need accountability. How does your plan speak to these issues?
So, one, I too created something called the 21st Century Rescue Plan, which can be identified on my website, which is electnikkilucas.com. One of the key things that we first have to do is prioritize spending within NYCHA developments. We see a lot of investment in the infrastructure throughout the city, but they allowed NYCHA to actually deteriorate to the point where it's in billions of dollars of needed repairs. I think that was done intentional. I think it was intentional because I think that the ultimate goal was to privatize. Why would the city look to privatize and get rid of the only real asset and the biggest asset that they have? You have to think like this is suspicious. And why would our leadership throughout the communities, the different districts, because it's not just happening here in East New York, it's happening all over. Why would our leadership allow this to go on without saying a word or advocating against it? What does this really mean? Because I want people to understand. They tried to really feed this to the community as if, oh no, it's only, they're going to be managing. They're not really taking over. It's a 99-year lease. They're controlling every aspect of this. They're removing the affordable state out of the unit itself, which is removing it from Section 9 and offering people Section 8, so that when somebody moves out of that unit, they have the liberty to raise the rent. It is no longer an affordable unit. So now this begins the process of gentrification. These folks are not going to be able to afford it. And then we have the community that live in homes that say, hey, you know what, this is not my problem, this is NYCHA's problem. But what's going to happen if that loses its affordability and the rents are raised there and the property values raised there, then what's going to happen to your home down in the long run? We are already, in our home ownership, we are already paying more taxes here in terms of property taxes than anyone across the board. So it's everybody's problem. We have to get to the point where we are prioritizing funding to make sure that we are investing in improving the infrastructure in real time. We are doing a lot of wasteful spending within this city. We're doing a lot of wasteful spending within this district alone, and that first has to be reassessed to find where exactly is the money, how is it being spent, and how do we reallocate funding into this, and also bring in people that have the capacity to repair. They keep relying on NYCHA, and NYCHA's not getting the job done. It's just not happening. And so that means that they're not the people for the job.
Let me just transition us. You talked about multiple issues relative to housing. You talked about NYCHA. How about affordable housing in our community? You know, houses that folks can afford who live here. As you know, St. Paul Community Baptist Church, East Brooklyn Congregations has a long history of the Nehemiah plan, building homes, over 5,000 homes in this area. What is your commitment to continuing that legacy of home ownership, affordable home ownership?
Well, this is important. When Nehemiah was built, was that 1982?
80. Mhm.
And
Started in 80.
there was homes going for what, 49,000,
Even less than that.
even less than that. We haven't seen that in over 20 years. There has been no investment in anything like Habitat for Humanities. You've got NACA. You've got real opportunities to create financial literacy, to create home ownership opportunities, and make sure that it's affordable.
If you emerge in this race and you're the next council member for this district, would you help to fast track construction? That ULURP process can be a long, arduous process. Would you be willing to fast track the process that we can continue to provide opportunities for home ownership?
Not only would I fast track the process, I also would make sure that there's an additional funding invested in making sure that we're creating home ownership opportunities. That's number one. Number two, I want to be able to be the first in over 20 years to work with my colleagues across government, on the federal level, on a state level, and on a city level, because that's what you're going to need to accomplish the things that we're talking about right now. It can't just be done on the city level. But when you have a partnership throughout the community, and you have a partnership that's inclusive of your colleagues, it makes the process go a lot better. And that's something that we have not seen in over 20 years.
We're coming to the end of this segment. I want to give you an opportunity to make your appeal. That camera is all yours. Tell the 42nd District why you should be the next council member of East New York. Name all the locations. East New York.
It's East New York, East Flatbush, Brownsville, Canarsie, and I'm forgetting
Cypress?
some. Well, Cypress is included, Starrett City, Remsen Village. Those are all the areas that's included in the 42nd Council District.
That's your camera. Go ahead.
It's extremely important that we are proactive. We can't continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. We can't identify that we have had all of these accomplishments and we're still number one when it comes to homelessness. We are number one when it comes to gun violence. We are number one when it comes to police brutality. We have extreme disparities when it comes to the digital divide. When it comes to our students lacking when it comes to technology, internet service. Our seniors are shut in. These are all the disparities that we're experiencing and more. We have not made any real investment when it comes to job creation or when it comes to business creation. We do not have sustainable wages. What's happening in our community is not happening in other communities. And so we need leadership that's going to speak to that in an active way. We need to make sure that we're being proactive. I'm not going to march with you after you've lost your job. I'm not going to march with you after you've lost your home. I'm not going to march with you once we determine that we've lost all these people when it came to COVID because of underlying conditions and the lack of healthy foods that exist in our community. I'm going to create, and I have created, a plan that addresses and it speaks to each and every one of these issues. It's called the 21st Century Rescue Plan. We cannot go into City Council without a plan. I'm going in to hit the ground running. This is serious. This is serious times. And we have to address it in that way, and we must be proactive in addressing those issues. Please check out electnickylucas.com, electnickylucas.com. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please friend me as well. But most importantly, I want to be inclusive of community ideas. Please take a look at my 21st Century Rescue Plan. Tell me what you think. Leave a message for me. Thank you. Vote for Nikki Lucas. June 12th. The 20th is the last day for early voting, and you can see the times on my website. And June 22nd is Election Day. So make sure the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Please make sure that you voice your vote and be proactive. Nikki Lucas for City Council.
Nikki, thank you for being here today. Best of luck to you. And again, as Nikki just said, get out and vote. I can't tell you who to vote for, but as your pastor, I am telling you, vote like your future depends on it, because it does. Blessings.